All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning, I'm Sunil Verma and with me is Sarabjit Kaur. The headlines. President Ramnath Kovind to address the nation on the eve of 74th Independence Day today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures Maldives of India's support in mitigating economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Government forms 5-member panel to probe into Kozhikode plane crash. Rajasthan Assembly session begins today amid ongoing political crisis. And US President Donald Trump announces historic peace deal between UAE and Israel to establish full diplomatic relations. President Ramnath Kovind will address the nation on the eve of the 74th Independence Day today. The address will be broadcast from 7 p.m. onwards on the entire national network of All India Radio and telecast over all channels of Doordarshan in Hindi, followed by the English version. All India Radio will broadcast regional language versions of the President's address from 9:30 p.m. on its respective regional networks. Broadcast of the address in Hindi and English on Doordarshan will be followed by broadcast in regional languages by regional channels of Doordarshan. The nation will celebrate the 74th Independence Day tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lead the nation in celebrating the Independence Day at the majestic Red Fort in New Delhi. The Prime Minister will unfurl the national flag and address the nation from the ramparts of the iconic monument. Security has been tightened in the national capital in view of the celebrations. A full dress rehearsal was held at the Red Fort yesterday for the Independence Day celebrations. Our correspondent has filed this report.
In view of COVID-19 situation, the Delhi Police has requested the invitees to follow guidelines issued by Union Home Ministry and Health Ministry at all times while they are in the function area at Red Fort. Around 4,000 security personnel will be deployed for the ceremony. There will be a multi-layer security ring, including NSG snipers, allied SWAT commandos, and kite catchers around the monument. Flying of some conventional aerial platforms like UAVs, paragliders, and hot air balloons in the national capital have been prohibited till tomorrow due to security reasons. Delhi Police has issued a traffic advisory to ensure safe and smooth vehicular movement across the national capital on Independence Day. Anupam Mishra, AI News, Delhi.
In the run-up to the 74th Independence Day celebrations, we bring you today a special story about the multiple initiatives for making new India. The Narendra Modi-led government has taken several initiatives to achieve the goal of making new India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given a clarion call to create an India which will be clean, free from corruption, poverty, terrorism, casteism, and free from communalism. In the last 5 years, the government has launched various schemes, including Housing for All by 2022 under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, doubling of farmers' income, and Ayushman Bharat Yojana. Talking exclusively to AIR News, Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar said, in order to realize the dream of New India, it is necessary to convert the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic into an opportunity. He said, in this direction, the government is promoting investment in private sector.
The call for a new India in 2022 given by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji will require that we first and foremost convert the current crisis into an opportunity. And as he has said, this can be done by ensuring that this period when we are trying to find the balance between lives and livelihood is used to implement some far-reaching structural reforms that will allow the economy to find a new trajectory of higher growth, and sustainable growth is also environmentally compatible.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the tax system in the country is becoming faceless and it will give the taxpayer a feeling of fairness and fearlessness. Launching transparent taxation honouring the honest platform through video conferencing in New Delhi yesterday, Mr. Modi said tax administration should solve problems instead of confusing the taxpayer, and everything from technology to rules should be simple. He said identities of the taxpayer and tax officer should not matter at all. The Prime Minister said the effort is to make tax system seamless, painless and faceless.
कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स के मामले में हम दुनिया में सबसे कम टैक्स लेने वाले देशों में से एक है। साथियों, कोशिश ये है कि हमारी टैक्स प्रणाली सीमलेस हो, पेनलेस हो, फेसलेस हो। सीमलेस यानी टैक्स एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हर टैक्स पेयर को उलझाने के बजाय समस्या को सुलझाने के लिए काम करे। पेनलेस यानी टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर रूल्स तक सब कुछ सिंपल हो। फेसलेस यानी टैक्स पेयर कौन है और टैक्स ऑफिसर कौन है, इससे मतलब ही नहीं होना चाहिए।
Listing taxation reforms undertaken by his government since 2014, Mr. Modi said the goods and services tax amalgamated dozens of taxes, thresholds fixed for pursuing tax matters in different courts, and a dispute resolution scheme brought in to reduce litigation. He said there is no tax on income up to 5 lakh rupees for individuals, and tax slabs for income higher than 5 lakh rupees have also been reduced. Mr. Modi said the taxpayer base at just 1.5 crore in India is very low. He urged those who owe taxes to come forward and honestly pay their dues and contribute to nation building.
बीते 6 वर्ष में हमारा फोकस रहा है बैंकिंग द अनबैंक, सिक्योरिंग द अनसिक्योर्ड और फंडिंग द अनफंडेड। आज एक तरह से एक नई यात्रा शुरू हो रही है। ऑनरिंग द ऑनेस्ट, ईमानदार का सम्मान। देश का ईमानदार टैक्स पेयर राष्ट्र निर्माण में बहुत बड़ी भूमिका निभाता है। जब देश के ईमानदार टैक्स पेयर का जीवन आसान बनता है, वो आगे बढ़ता है, तो देश का भी विकास होता है, देश भी आगे बढ़ता है।
Mr. Modi said, looking at the commitment towards reforms, the confidence of foreign investors is also increasing continuously towards India. He said arrival of record foreign direct investment to India even during the corona crisis is an example of it. The Prime Minister said government brought in Vivad Se Vishwas scheme so that maximum cases get resolved outside court. As a result, in a short time, about 3 lakh cases have been resolved. Welcoming the new tax platform, President of the National Industry Body ASSOCHAM, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani has said that a transparent tax scheme would encourage voluntary tax filing. He said the initiative announced by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a move towards making the entire tax filing system into a hassle-free and painless experience for the taxpayer, which would eventually encourage people to voluntarily pay taxes on their own. Mr. Rajiv Podar, President of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mumbai, said that the new transparent tax scheme will greatly reduce the cost of compliance and the difficulties faced by the taxpayers. Kumaramangalam Vijay, partner J. Sagar Associates, said the government has rightly increased the thresholds for appeals to be filed by the revenue to reduce litigations. Secretary General of FICCI, Dilip Chenoy, called it a historic step in tax administration. He said this will primarily benefit the honest taxpayers and added that FICCI welcomes the charter and transparency that has been brought in. In an effort to guard against fake news being circulated on various platforms, we bring you our segment on Fact Check and Mythbusters. A document is being shared on social media platforms as the new Taxpayers' Charter of India. The Ministry of Finance has termed the claim as fake and informed that the widely shared document on these platforms is in fact the Taxpayers' Charter of a foreign country and not of India. Citizens can visit the website incometaxindia.gov.in to view the actual Taxpayers' Charter of the country unveiled by the Prime Minister.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh launched the Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization, NIIO, through an online webinar. The NIIO puts in place dedicated structures for the end users to interact with academia and industry towards fostering innovation and indigenization for self-reliance in defence. The Draft Defence Acquisition Policy 2020, DAP20, rolled out by the Defence Ministry last month, envisaged establishment of Innovation and Indigenization Organization by the service headquarters. Indian Navy already has a functional Directorate of Indigenization, and the new structures created will build upon the ongoing indigenization initiatives as well as focus on innovation. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has said the new national education policy will ensure accessibility, equity, quality, affordability and accountability. Addressing a webinar on the National Education Policy NEP yesterday, the minister said he had seen the process of formulation of the policy closely when he was the Human Resource Development Minister. Mr. Javadekar said it is an education policy that will take India forward. The minister said if one studies the policy, one will realize that education for all is its basis. He said those students who do not come in the school system are being sought to be brought under it. In Rajasthan, amid the ongoing political crisis, the State Assembly session is set to begin from today. The crucial session beginning today would see the ruling Congress move a motion for trust vote and the BJP move a no-confidence motion. Ahead of the session, both the parties held their legislature party meetings in Jaipur yesterday. Our correspondent has the details.
Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has told that the government would move the confidence motion in the House and prove its majority. Former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot and his 18 MLAs attended the meeting of Congress Legislature Party held yesterday evening. On the other hand, Leader of Opposition Gulab Chand Kataria said that the opposition would move a no-confidence motion and question the government for failing on all fronts. Due to COVID situation in the state, it is believed that the Assembly session will be very short. Jitendra Dwivedi, AIR News, Jaipur.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. President Ramnath Kovind to address the nation on the eve of 74th Independence Day today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures Maldives of India's support in mitigating economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Government forms 5 members panel to probe into Kozhikode plane crash. Rajasthan Assembly session begins today amid ongoing political crisis, and US President Donald Trump announces historic peace deal between UAE and Israel to establish full diplomatic relations. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has ordered a probe into the Air India Express aircraft crash at Kozhikode Airport. The investigation of the aircraft crash will be done by a 5-member team headed by Captain S.S. Chahar. The team will investigate and determine the probable causes and contributory factors leading to the accident. It will also make recommendations to avoid such recurrences in the future. Investigator in charge, Captain S.S. Chahar, will submit his report within 5 months. An Air India Express flight from Dubai with over 190 people skidded off the tabletop runway during landing at the Kozhikode airport in heavy rains, killing 18 people on the 7th of this month. Crossing the 8 lakh day milestone of tests in a single day, India has registered a record high of 8,30,391 tests conducted in the last 24 hours. In pursuance of the test, track and treat strategy, India is geared up to reach the testing capacity of 10 lakh tests per day. The country touched another peak of highest ever single day recoveries of 56,383 in a single day. With this, the total number of recovered COVID-19 patients has touched nearly 17 lakh. With increasing number of recoveries, the recovery rate has reached 70.77%. The case mortality among COVID patients has further regressed to 1.96% and is steadily declining. The Health Ministry has said that World Health Organization WHO has advised 140 tests per day per million population. The ministry said with focused center-led efforts and effective implementation by states and union territories, 34 of them have exceeded this requirement.
In Bihar, a record number of over 1 lakh COVID-19 tests have been conducted in last 24 hours. Altogether, 13,37,000 tests have been so far conducted. The total number of COVID-19 positive cases has mounted to 94,559 after 3,906 fresh cases were reported during last 24 hours. As many as 224 inmates lodged at Araria jail have tested positive. The jailer said new male prisoners are now being sent to Purnia Central Jail, while female prisoners are being sent to Dal Singh Sarai Jail in Samastipur. 62,507 people have recovered so far in the state, while 31,467 people are being treated in various hospitals. The recovery rate stands over 66%. Meanwhile, Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad visited Patna Medical College and Hospital PMCH and the Nalanda Medical College and Hospital NMCH in Patna to take stock of the facilities being provided to COVID-infected patients. The minister assured that all possible help would be extended to state government from centre to tackle COVID-19 pandemic. In Andaman and Nicobar Islands, 137 fresh cases of COVID-19 were reported during last 24 hours. 95 people also recovered during this period. A total of 2,037 COVID-19 cases have been reported in the islands till now, while 924 people have recovered so far. 22 patients have succumbed to the infection. Most of the cases have been reported in the South Andaman district, including Port Blair. Acting upon the situation, administration is ramping up medical infrastructure in the islands.
Gujarat recorded 1,092 new coronavirus cases during the last 24 hours. According to the State Health Department, the recovery rate has improved further and reached up to 77.42%. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
More than 11,59,000 tests have been carried out in the state, out of which record 50,817 tests carried out yesterday. Total cases of COVID-19 in the state have gone up to 75,482. Out of 14,310 active cases in the state, the conditions of 79 patients are serious. At the other end, 1,046 patients have been discharged from the various hospitals after recovery. With this, the total patients recovered from COVID-19 have gone up to 58,439. Meanwhile, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has made it mandatory to appoint COVID coordinator in all establishments with more than 30 people. Such coordinator will be responsible for all protocols and SOPs related to COVID-19. Owner will be responsible for the establishments with less than 30 staff. Yogesh Pandya, AR News, Ahmedabad.
In Maharashtra, timely measures taken by the Mumbai civic authorities, state government and people have been yielding positive results as the number of recovered cases due to COVID-19 crossed 1 lakh mark. The recovery rate of the city has risen to 79%. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The number of recovered COVID-19 patients in Mumbai has crossed the 1 lakh mark yesterday. A total of 923 patients were discharged from the hospitals. According to the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, the recovery rate of COVID-19 patients in Mumbai is currently stable at 79%. Meanwhile, around 381 personnel of Maharashtra Police tested positive for coronavirus, out of which 3 succumbed to the infection in last 24 hours. With the 3 new fatalities, the COVID-19 death toll in the state police reached 124. At least 11,773 police personnel have contracted this infection so far. A total of 9,416 policemen have recovered from the disease, while 2,233 are undergoing treatment. Madhuri Pange, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Tamil Nadu, in a noble gesture, 40 police personnel in Chennai donated their blood plasma to treat COVID-19 patients yesterday. All these personnel were infected with the disease earlier and recovered recently. We have a report.
The police personnel are some of the most valiant frontline warriors in the ongoing battle against COVID-19 disease. In the discharge of their duties, many of them have contracted the virus themselves. The Chennai Police Commissioner Mahesh Kumar Agarwal said 1,920 police personnel have so far been affected by the disease. 1,549 of them have recovered and rejoined for duty. 48 of them came forward to donate their blood plasma for treating the existing COVID-19 patients. 40 of them were found eligible, including 2 women who donated their plasma yesterday. Normally, 500 ml of plasma is drawn from those who recovered from COVID-19 after their 14-day quarantine, provided they are free from other comorbid conditions. Jai Singh, AR News, Chennai.
In Karnataka, the total number of COVID-19 cases crossed 2 lakh mark after 6,706 people tested positive during the last 24 hours. The total number of positive cases now stands at 2,03,200. Bengaluru city recorded 1,893 fresh COVID-19 cases, followed by Mysuru with 522 and Ballari with 445 cases. Yesterday, a record 8,609 people were discharged from various hospitals in the state following recovery from coronavirus infection. The total number of recovered cases has risen to 1,21,242. More details on this from our correspondent.
The state recovery rate is showing constant improvement as it increased to 59.67% yesterday. There is a drop in the mortality rate as it stands at 1.78%. 103 COVID patients lost their life and the total death increased to 3,613. There was a marked increase in COVID tests as it conducted 59,999 tests in a single day yesterday. 18,82,316 swab samples were tested across the state. At present, 78,337 active patients are taking treatment in various hospitals, and among them 727 are in ICU. Meanwhile, the Medical Education Minister Dr. K. Sudhakar held a video conference with the private hospitals and medical colleges. He discussed about the treatment protocols, COVID-19 testing. R. Murthy, AR News, Bengaluru.
In Odisha, Behrampur city of Ganjam district, which is one of the main COVID-19 hotspots in the state, has shown a seroprevalence of as much as 31%. Briefing media yesterday, director of the ICMR-run Regional Medical Research Centre in Bhubaneswar, Dr. Sangamitra Pati, said that about one-third population of the city has developed antibodies against COVID-19. The serological survey intended to map the community spread of infection was undertaken in the first week of this month. Behrampur alone has already recorded more than 2,500 positive cases with more than 40 deaths.
Indian shuttler N. Sikki Reddy and physiotherapist Kiran C. have tested COVID positive. They arrived at the National Badminton Camp at the Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy in Hyderabad. This came to light after they took SAI's mandatory COVID test that is given to all players, coaches and support staff on arrival. Meanwhile, the academy has been closed down for sanitization. All primary contacts of Sikki and Kiran have been traced and are being given the RT-PCR test again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India will continue to support the Maldives in mitigating the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Replying to Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih on Twitter yesterday, Prime Minister Modi said their special friendship will always remain as deep as the waters of the Indian Ocean. Mr. Modi was responding to Maldives President's tweet thanking him for India's financial assistance to the island country. Mr. Solih called it a landmark moment in Maldives-India cooperation as they received Indian assistance of $250 million as budget support and $500 million for the Greater Malay Connectivity Project. Here is a report.
The fresh assistance will be a big boost to Maldives' economy, which is dependent on tourism and has suffered badly due to COVID situation. Maldives President Ibrahim Solih termed it a landmark moment in Maldives-India cooperation and thanked PM Modi and people of India for their generosity and friendship. Former President Mohammad Nasheed termed it a super low-cost development assistance, what Maldives needs exactly. He said it is a genuine help from a friend to help build critical infrastructure. Without naming China, the former president criticized eye-watering expensive commercial loans that leaves the nation mired in debt. It may be mentioned that former government in Maldives received several investments from Chinese companies, but new government under President Solih has deepened relations with India as part of its India First policy. Santosh Kumar for AIR News from Colombo.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the United Arab Emirates, UAE and Israel have agreed to establish full diplomatic relations as part of a new peace deal. Under the agreement, Israel would suspend its plans to annex parts of the West Bank. Making the announcement in the Oval Office, U.S. President said the deal is a significant step towards building a more peaceful, secure and prosperous Middle East. President Trump also tweeted a joint statement between the U.S., UAE and Israel which said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan have agreed to the full normalization of relations. The statement called the peace agreement a historic diplomatic breakthrough that will advance peace in the Middle East region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a new era has opened between Israel and the Arab world. The UAE's ambassador to the United States, Yusuf Al-Otaiba, said the deal with Israel was a win for diplomacy and for the region. In Bihar, the flood situation has worsened following torrential rains in catchment areas of Nepal and heavy discharge of 215,000 cubic of water from Gandak barrage. The water level of Gandak river is rapidly rising. In view of the deteriorating situation, people living in low-lying areas have been advised to shift to higher places. Over 78 lakh people spread over 16 districts are reeling under the impact of floods. Darbhanga, by far the worst affected district, which accounts for 20 lakh people hit by the floods. 38 people have lost their lives in flood-related incidents in last 24 hours. 33 teams of NDRF and SDRF are carrying out relief and rescue operations.
Indian Meteorological Department IMD has said that large parts of the country are likely to receive heavy to very heavy rainfall during the next 2 to 3 days. The IMD said a low-pressure area has formed over northwest Bay of Bengal, off North Odisha and West Bengal coasts. There is also a monsoon trough, plus a convergence of southwesterly winds with moisture from Arabian Sea is likely to continue during the next 2 days, which will lead to heavy rains over several parts of the country. The IMD said fairly widespread rainfall with heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places is very likely over major parts of North India, including Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and East Rajasthan during the next 2 days and decrease thereafter. And now, let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi is expected to have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The minimum recorded temperature in the city was 24 degrees Celsius. Maximum temperature is expected to hover around 32 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will also have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The minimum temperature recorded was 26. Maximum will be around 29 degrees. Chennai will have generally cloudy sky. Minimum temperature 27 degrees. Maximum expected 34 degrees. Kolkata will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers.
In Gilgit, the minimum temperature was recorded 18 degrees Celsius, maximum around 37 degrees. In Muzaffarabad, the minimum temperature recorded was 27 degrees Celsius, maximum around 37. Chandigarh, minimum temperature 27, maximum around 31 degrees. Dehradun, 24 degrees Celsius minimum and the maximum around 30 degrees Celsius. The Sports Ministry will organize the largest country-wide run, the Fit India Freedom Run, from tomorrow till 2nd of October, which boasts of a unique concept. Sports Minister Kiran Rijiju will launch the mega event today. In keeping with the current pandemic situation and social distancing norms, the government has decided to encourage participants of the event to run at their own pace, anywhere and at any time of their convenience. And now an overview of today's newspapers. Quoting a study, the Pioneer writes, plasma therapy safe, cuts mortality. News of Ram Temple Trust head testing COVID positive finds mention on the front pages of most dailies. Hindu Business Line headline quotes the Prime Minister as saying tax system will be made seamless, painless, faceless. The day government applauds honest taxpayer, it plans new list of transactions under scanner, writes the Indian Express. Rajasthan Trust vote today as Pilot Gehlot seal truce, headlines the Asian Age. Gehlot pilot meet, BJP Congress stock floor test, writes the Hindustan Times. The Pioneer, carrying a photograph of an inundated road, writes, heaviest rain of season in Delhi. The Times of India carries a photograph of a submerged Delhi police van with the caption, when helpers need help. And finally, Hindustan Times quotes US Democratic Party's presidential candidate's running mate, Kamala Harris, as saying, Indian mother taught me to fight for change.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. President Ramnath Kovind to address the nation on the eve of 74th Independence Day today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures Maldives of India's support in mitigating economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Government forms 5-member panel to probe into Kozhikode plane crash. Rajasthan Assembly session begins today amid ongoing political crisis. And US President Donald Trump announces historic peace deal between UAE and Israel to establish full diplomatic relations. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.